Welcome to Tamara Tattletales. I'm Tamara, and I spill the tea on your favorite reality stars. Married at First Sight AfterParty, Season 14, Episode 13, Boston. This episode featured Tootie, Steve, and Mark, and the signature cocktail was called a Mystery Mezcal, which had mezcal, sugar, mint-infused water, and cinnamon. They played the scene where Noisy said her Instagram post wasn't about Steve, but sometimes feels that way in their marriage. So Keisha asked, if it wasn't about you, then who was it about? And Steve said his frustration in his marriage is that he doesn't often know a lot about what goes on internally with Noisy. He's still learning about things that happened the first week they met that bothered her. So Noisy, why are you afraid to talk to your husband but have no problem broadcasting your feelings about him on Instagram? So when she posts those types of posts on Instagram, Steve said his friends and family reach out to him to ask if everything is okay. So he said he's also protecting her by asking her not to post those types of things to avoid his family from looking at her differently. Yeah, that's a good point. They're going to think she is messy. They showed the scene where they discussed the baby timeline being a year. Keisha asked, since she said she doesn't want to live with you after decision day, how y'all gonna have babies and not live together? Thank you, Keisha. My question exactly. He said that sometimes she contradicts herself, so he could only speculate that since she has such a tight timetable for having a baby, that she would want to move in before the baby was born. Interesting that she went from being concerned about him not having a job or ambition to wanting to have his baby in a year. They played the scene where he and Noisy talked about finances. Steve said they have had multiple conversations about him working. He says if he goes back to working full-time, it's between him being a sales engineer, software development, or something independent, but he's built apps from scratch and started his own companies. Okay, so by now, Noisy has to know that Steve has some money in the bank and intends on making more. It sounds like he prefers to work smarter, not harder, but she may want him to work harder at a 9-to-5. So Keisha told him that she asked Noisy, what amount of money does Steve need in the bank for her to feel comfortable with Steve not working? And Noisy said $40K. And he said, $40K? Oh, she's all set. Keisha said, that's what I was trying to tell her. So Noi, you're good, girl. Honestly, at this point, I kind of feel like this is the producers forcing them to keep talking about this because otherwise they don't have many problems to discuss. Keisha asked what keeps him in his marriage, and he said it's the foundation they built from the start, like natural chemistry and good times, so when they do have a conflict, they try to go back to that place. Keisha asked if he could see Katina being the mother of his children, and he said, I'm married to her, so I have to. And Keisha was like, that doesn't mean you see her as the mother of your children. Lindsey and Mark are married too. Slight dig on their marriage. He said absolutely that her effort is always through the roof and she would be a great mom. I think if you parent the same way you husband, she's going to be a stressed mom. So they played the scene where Dr. Pepper accused him of talking down to his wife. And Keisha said, you were clearly frustrated, but it looked like there was something else going on that we didn't get to see, like what was going on. And he said, well, first of all, I married a stranger and we are all still getting to know each other. Could I have handled the situation with my wife better? Absolutely. He said he knows that Dr. Pepper is an expert for a reason, but when she kept saying, I heard this and I heard that, he felt like she was coming at him based on what she heard and what she saw in clips. So I guess what he's trying to say is don't believe your lion eyes, Dr. Pepper, or what everybody's telling you based on what they've witnessed. Keisha said, was it that an opinion was made without getting your side of the story? He said, absolutely. She never asked, where's your conflict? Where are you struggling? He just felt attacked. Attacked, huh? Like the way you attack Katina over not being a cook or a cleaner or having that dating app on her phone. I mean, if you're gonna dish it out, you gotta be able to take it, Tootie. So Keisha asked Mark if he felt that Tootie belittled Katina, and he said no, that Tootie is just passionate, and his love for her is so great that he gets passionate when he tries to get his point across. Interesting that he sees Tootie's anger as passion, but his wife's anger as unhealthy. So Steve said that the consequences of delivering his message in a certain way does have an effect on the other person, and Tootie is good at apologizing once he realizes that. He said just as there's an expectation of Katina in terms of caring for the home, there's also an expectation that Tootie needs to work on delivering the message better. Keisha asked if there was anything he wishes he would have done better with that meeting with Dr. Pepper. He said he wishes he would have kept his cool because when people see you showing too much emotion, they think you're either guilty or lying, and he was neither, and that he has so much love for his marriage. I don't see his emotion as being guilty or lying. I see it as having a short fuse. They played the scene where he was talking to Dr. Pepper after the volleyball game, and Keisha asked, "What were you thinking when they walked in?" And he said, "Perfect." He said he was so bothered by the conversation with Dr. Pepper that he couldn't sleep that night and told Katina the next day that he can't wait to catch her with the experts. Now, I didn't understand what he meant by that because maybe he wants to confront them in front of her and have her falsely confirm that he hasn't spoken down to her. I mean, I don't know. Keisha asked him, "What keeps you in this marriage?" "I have never had a woman make me question who I am every day. She treats Isaac the same way she treats Olajuwon. She's beautiful and her character is one of a kind." Now, why are we bringing Isaac into this marriage? I thought we left him on that woman's booty at the strip club. Keisha asked if he and Karen had talked about having kids. He said they have, but it depends on the conversation. Sometimes he doesn't know if he wants to have kids with her or divorce her, but he says they don't have to rush it. Child, that biological clock is ticking for both you. You need to be in a rush with somebody to have kids. So they play the scene where Mark and Karen are fighting about him being inconsistent and her being an unhealthy communicator. Keisha asked, "What do you think of what she is saying?" He said that when they're good, but when they get in an argument, she wants to go tit for tat, but when he wants to take a step back to get some clarity, she'll call him inconsistent. So I'm glad Keisha understood what he was talking about. She broke it down like this. So Karen will create disharmony. Then when things settle down, she'll want him to behave as if nothing ever happened. So Keisha asked, "What do you need at this point for your marriage to work?" And he said, when she's feeling hurt, she wants him to feel that hurt, but that doesn't help him to want to love her. If she would just cry without speaking, that would help him want to step up and do more. So in other words, he just wants her to shut up. They showed the scene where they discussed having better communication, and Keisha said, "How are you feeling about your marriage after this conversation?" And he said, "What we didn't see is that they had their biggest breakthrough moment that they had like all season. And they talked about how to connect and where Karen's anger comes from, and they expressed a lot of emotions. By now, we all know that her anger comes from childhood, but understanding why someone is always aggressive doesn't stop the aggression." Keisha asked Tootie what advice he would have for Karen. He said, "Work on your delivery, not just in your marriage, but in life." He said he talked to her about it on the roof and told her that when she is aggressive all the time, that people will eventually put a wall up. Now that's some sound advice that he needs to put into action as well. So Keisha asked Mark what keeps him in his marriage. He said his thought process is if they can get through this, then tomorrow will be better. That unconditional love that she didn't get, that maybe he can give it to her, but at some point, she needs to take accountability on the way she goes about it. I can't recall ever seeing her on camera apologize for the way she spoke to him in his face or behind his back.